Yeah, this is a Containerd maintainer track session, into Containerd through the eyes of a contributor. And I'm Akhil Mohan. I work as a software engineer at VMware by Broadcom. And I'm also a Containerd maintainer and maintains the Kubernetes publishing code and mostly works in the Kubernetes SIG node side. So let's get into it. What's happening new in the Containerd world? We had the Containerd 2.0 was out last month just before the KubeCon NA. And let's see what are the new features and breaking changes that went into the major release. This was like one of the release that was anticipated for like more than 1.5 years. We started with the first alpha in 2023 October, and now like the GA is out. So these are a few of the new features that went in, like transfer service and sandbox service were actually introduced in 1.7 as like experimental features, and now they are like stable in 2.0. And we have a faster image extraction using with IGC on machines that support it. And then we have NRI is now enabled by default. NRI is node resource interface. And then we have image verifier plugins. So I'll be talking a little bit more about NRI and image verifier plugins. Then we have a plugin introspection API and CDA, which is container device interface, and then CRI support for user namespaces. So let's get into NRI, or the node resource interface. So it's basically works like a mutating webhook, but for for the container configuration. So you can consider it as like a middleware between CRI and OCI. So from the CRI spec, when you convert it into the OCI spec for runC or for any other runtime to run it, you can inject changes using the NRI implementation. And it's mostly used for injecting new devices and OCI hooks. Then we have the image verifier plugins. So these plugins can be mostly used during image pull. One of the most common use cases is you have a signed image and you need to verify the signature of the image during pull itself. It can be done using the image verifier plugins. Now, a few of the breaking changes that went into Containerd 2.0. So the Docker schema 1 image support is now disabled by default. It has been deprecated for a long time, and I think most of the users would have already been migrated, and there is very little chance of that actually causing a breakage for any of the users. And now it's disabled by default. And now the CRI v1 alpha 2 API is removed. So I think in Kubernetes 127 onwards, we have been using the CRI v1 API. Then there are some changes related to the IO during syscalls, and then the Containerd runtime v1 shims has also been deprecated. Also, the AUFS snapshotter is now removed, and the CRI CNI release bundle. So earlier Containerd used to release along with the Containerd binaries, we used to package runC and also the CNA plugins that was needed for container to work, but that was actually a maintenance burden. So now it's removed, and we recommend the version that need to be used, but actually don't ship it. So the users can actually download whichever version they want and then use it. So now, if you have looked at the heading, it was mostly into Containerd through the eyes of a contributor. So most of the maintainer track session, we usually used to say okay, these are the new features that came in, these are the things that we have been doing. But this time I thought maybe do it a little bit different rather than completely focusing on use cases. I will give my journey on how I become a maintainer and how you can contribute more into Containerd. So currently, if you check the total contributions, from an India perspective, in the total number of contributions, India is ranked at 9. So these contributions are along with code contributions. You have the number of people who raised issues, comments on issues and discussions. Everything is included in this, and this result is for the past quarter. And if you check for the code committers to the main Containerd org, India is ranked at 4th. And this data is picked up from the Containerd dev stats. And we also have any information that's available from the LFS Insights that has been like recently announced. So here India is like ranked 9th. So the difference is due to the data capture timeline that have been used. And okay, so now I will give a brief explanation of like how I become a maintainer. I'm a fairly new maintainer in the containerd community. It's been like just almost an year. That's like a very short span of time if you consider the total time period for the project has been out there. So my first contribution to this landscape was to Docker in 2019. So that was like as part of my day job, like I had to do some work related to container. It was not directly related to containerd, but like in Docker, and we needed support for some privileged devices, and that was my first change that actually got me into the CNCF landscape. And after that, I have been not that much active, but I was still using containerd and Docker, everything under the hood. And then around like in the 2021 timeframe, again, as part of a day job, I had to I was maintaining a custom GitHub action that was used for transferring images from one registry to another. At that time, like that functionality was not available in any of the GitHub actions that was available. And this basically used containerd under the hood. It was not Docker, but directly containerd. So if you have used containerd, you may know about the CTR command. Like actually, I was using it for moving images from like or content from one registry to multiple destination registries. And so from here onwards, like the journey takes a turn. I upgraded the version of containerd that I was been using internally in my GitHub action, and then from then onwards, I started to see a lot of issues being reported by users in my project. So I was like, actually amazed to see there were this many users that were using my project. And when I debugged a little more further on that, I found that like the issue was basically due to one change that went into containerd, and like this was an actual issue, and it was a race condition. So I don't know if you have used containerd or like Docker in the 2021-22 time frame. There was a race condition if you are pushing multi-platform images to QA and GHCR. I don't know how many of you have hit this. It was like a very rare case, but like I was consistently hitting it, or like my users were consistently hitting it in in their CA setup. So since it was hard to reproduce the from the maintainer side and from other contributor side, I had to actually get into the code and then debug, and finally found a solution. So I actually got like immense support from the maintainers in like debugging the issue, like fixing the issue. It went on for like almost 1 year, like from the first containerd community meeting when I came up with this issue and like finally fixing it. They actually could get on a call, the maintainers could get on a call and then like help me with debugging for like hours on like how to actually do that. So that was like very surprising to me, and like it was like so much welcoming. The community was like very much welcoming. And so this helped me familiarize with like many parts of the code, because it was not a proper like I don't know. It was not a straight away debugging sessions that we are doing. Like most of the time, we were going into the core aspects of like how the images and contents is like actually handled in containerd, and how it is being pushed to multiple registries. And this led me to contribute to more and more areas in containerd. I was actually getting interested, and more and more areas like related to containerd API. And once I started contributing to containerd API, I found that like, okay, we need to use some other project. Then I went to Kubernetes side for like some Kubernetes publishing boards related work. And eventually all this led to becoming me being a reviewer or maintainer. So in containerd, a maintainer is like classified into two sections. One, you have like a reviewer, and then you have the committer. I am in the reviewer one, and committer is basically the next level in the maintainership role. So that's basically my journey of like how I become a maintainer. And now I would like to discuss about some of the cross projects issues that we had dealt with in the past few years in the containerd landscape. So one of them was like the between containerd, Kubernetes, and C-Advisor. So Kubernetes uses imports the containerd libraries. C-Advisor also uses the containerd libraries for getting some metrics. And again, it was like kind of a cyclic dependency issue that we had to solve at that time. And lot of approaches were actually made, and like as a workaround, the initial one of the approaches was to basically copy the code from like one repo in another repo and then maintain it. That was like, it was not a good solution, but like we had to do it at that time so that like immediately for as a workaround. And then after that, like we had to create the containerd API module. So currently, if you check, like along with the main containerd module in the containerd repo, there is like a containerd API module is also that is available. So that can be used by like most of the clients who want to use the containerd API and build products on top of that. So at that time, we thought, okay, containerd API module was made, and then we updated the C-Advisor with it, and KTS was also updated, and thought that this actually fits the issue, but actually it didn't. It opened like another can of worms for us. So when we tried to update the version of C-Advisor, there was HCS stream. So if you know about HCS stream, like it's actually used for running containers on Windows. So there was again another dependency issue that was going on between like the version of HCS stream, Kubernetes, and containerd. So this came up like when we updated the version of containerd in Kubernetes. So eventually, to fix this, the Microsoft folks actually have to create a new repo, splitting out like multiple packages from the HCS stream and making a new HNS lib, like the host network library for fixing it. Yeah, so these are the sort of issues that we face in the containerd ecosystem. And if you are actually interested, if any of this actually feels interesting to you, you can join and like help us with this. And now there is like another project in containerd called netctl or netctl, like how you want to pronounce it. So it's like a Docker compatible CLI for containerd, and it provides almost the same user experience as of Docker. So why I am saying about this project is because it's like kind of a to get an easy start into the containerd ecosystem. So and it provides like more areas to contribute to. So most of you might be using the Docker CLI. You can replace it with the netctl CLI and then see like, okay, what are the issues you are facing, and like then you can contribute back to the netctl project. And it's also one of the project which can be like easy for the beginners to get on. So if you directly go into the main containerd project, it will be like too overwhelming, because like there will be a lot of concepts that are like too difficult to grasp in a first shot. But like this will be like an easy graph for like most of the new folks. And this is the URL for like the containerd netctl if anyone wants to check out it. And definitely you should try using it, because it's like such a great product that actually with which you can experiment the new features of containerd even before it comes like in other CLIs, because we itself use it for like testing out the new features that come up in containerd. And now a few of the areas that we actually require help from the contributors are like, one is like CRI or container runtime interface. So this is like to implement new features in containerd. Like when KTS creates like a new API change related to CRI, we need to implement it in like the container runtimes like Cryo and containerd. And only once it's like properly tested in both of this, we can like graduate them to the next level in KTS. For this, like actually we need help like in iterating it faster and testing the features. So this is like one such issue that has been there for a long time. And like, yeah, I am also one of the reasons why it's currently stuck now, because I was not able to work on it. So that's also something that we have to improve and like get more contributors in and move it faster. So another one is like the documentation. So how many of you have actually seen the documentation page of Containerd? Like, so if you have seen it, like you can see it's just directly redirects to the Containerd main project, like in GitHub. Yeah, it's like a bit of very difficult to navigate through it and like find anything. So that's like another area that we need help in, like getting a proper documentation out so that it's like easier for new users to get started and work on it. And yeah, so this is like you can say like okay, I don't know if recruiting is the correct term, but like still like we need like these are some of the areas in which we need help from the OSS community so that like we can get the project like more accelerated. And so now going to the testing part. Testing is also one area in which we need to actively work on, and we are currently actively working on, and like new help is always required, because one is like trying out the new RC releases. So if you know, like the Containerd 2.0 release was done last month. So there was like an RC period of almost like 6-7 months, and like we were testing out new features, and like if there were any bugs, any regressions. So for that, like the help from communities like it helped us like so much to identify all these cases. So currently, like in the Containerd, like we also create like separate issues for like flaking tests. So if you have worked in the Kubernetes community, you might already know about it, but like Containerd, it started like just 3 weeks or 4 weeks back. We have been not following it promptly, but now we want to iron out the more test issues and like get more people involved into work into it. Another thing is like the generic Containerd releases, if you have seen, are actually like we just bundle all the binaries into a tarball and like then provide to the users for. But like most of them might be using it from their distro vendors. So the reason why we do that is every combination of OS vendor, we are not able to test it in our CA. So always if the users actually get the new features and then like test it, it will be like so much helpful for us. Yeah, and about the release cadence, this is something that we have been hearing a lot of complaint, because like there is no fixed release cadence for Containerd. 2.0 was like in alpha phase and like RC phase like for more than a year. So Kubernetes might need a new feature, might be needing a new feature that is there in Containerd 2.0, but like since it's not released, like users are not able to use it, and like some features in the CRA get stuck on it. So issues like that can happen. So once if you can like able to test the things, then the release cadence can be improved. So after the 2.0, we are planning to have a fixed 6 months release. Like we are in the process of doing that. And that will be like the next 2.1.0 release will be like released in the next 6 months. Yeah, this is what I earlier mentioned about creating like issues for the flaky test, which I think this also will be like easier for like new contributors to work on, because like and find out issues and like help with it more. And if you want to learn more about the internals of Containerd, the design docs in the project repo for packages, it's like if you have a little bit experience, it is good. And so from this month onwards, a few of the Containerd maintainers have decided to start a blog where they will be like describing the internals of Containerd. Like, so already 3 of them has been published. So if you check out this like Containerd dev in Blue Sky, you can actually find it, like the links to those. So currently regarding like plugins and like CTR command line, so it will be like a detailed explanation. So the new contributors who want to dive deep into each section of Containerd can understand it like at a much deeper level. And yeah, that's basically it. And we have like the Containerd dev and Containerd Slack channel where most of the maintainers will be hanging out, and you can raise your questions, queries, or like new things that you want to do on. And we also have a community meeting at 8:30 in India time on every second and fourth Thursday. So I hope some of you might be joining there. Yep. Thank you. And any questions? If anyone has, like, yeah. There is not a second mic. Yeah.
My question is regarding Containerd logging. So logging is not very efficient when troubleshooting issues. So any work on those? Because especially when there are networking issues, containerd logs are very chaotic. So
So logs and traces are something that we have improved in the 2.0 version. That you can have you tried using the 2.0 in 2.0 like the regarding the open telemetry trace? Oh, yeah. Yeah, so regarding logging, like actually the uh, OpenTelemetry configurations are also like we have improved like in the 2.0 release, which you can actually check out. Uh, that should be like solving your issue. If else, like you can actually just ping me in Slack or like raise an issue, like we can work on it.